This is the FPL Draft Zone, your fantasy team's best signing of the season.
Hello and welcome to the FPL Draft Zone, a podcast all about draft FPL. I am Dom Croft. I hope you are well. And yes, we are back for a second week running doing this YouTube thing. Will it last? Who knows? But for this week, for sure, we are doing it. And it's different to last week because last week we did an audio podcast and a YouTube video. And this week we are doing just the YouTube thing and we're putting that out as our audio podcast as well. So I'd love to know what you think, what you prefer. Should we do a bit of both? Should we focus purely on audio or purely on YouTube? You tell us. Lots of ways to get in touch. We are at FPL Draft Zone on X and Instagram, and all the other details, email, Blue Sky, are running along the screen now. So if you are normally listening to us, do check us out on YouTube as well. Whatever happens, we've got the same stuff as usual coming up. We're going to take a look back at Game Week 5 in all its glory, and we're going to take a look ahead to Game Week 6. We've got those all-important waiver picks, and we're going to touch on the midweek games as well, which could impact your thinking ahead of that waiver deadline. But before we get started, a little plea from me to you to subscribe to the pod if you haven't already. It is the best way to ensure you never miss an episode. And if you would be so kind, a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or some positive words of encouragement on Spotify or similar would be greatly appreciated. And if you're watching here on YouTube, like and subscribe. But enough about that. Let's take a look at what happened in Game Week 5 because it was another busy one and it all got underway at Anfield in the 12:30 p.m. BST kickoff between Liverpool and Everton, the Merseyside derby. Liverpool tend to win the Merseyside derby, and guess what, folks? They won the Merseyside derby. 2-1 it finished. Ryan Gravenberch among the heroes. He got his second goal of the season from an XGI of just 0.32. His 2 goals this season have come from an overall XGI of 0.6, so he is massively overperforming in that regard. Previous total XGIs in his previous games, 0.03, 0.03, and 0.23. So the hero this week, he was a hero at Newcastle earlier in the season as well, but whether or not he can replicate that consistently over the course of the season, when you look at those underlying stats, remains to be seen. It finished 2-2 at the Amex between Brighton and Spurs. Yankuba Minte was amongst the goals. His strike came from an XGI of 0.74. He has 2 attacking returns for the season. He will not have been drafted on draft night as high as his teammate Karo Mitoma, and yet currently he has twice as much XGI as Mitoma. So if he is free on the waiver pile right now for you, certainly worth considering. Burnley 1, Nottingham Forest 1 was the final score at Turf Moor. Scott Parker's side grinding out another result at home, and Jaden Anthony amongst the goals again. He's got 4 attacking returns for the season from an XGI of 2.6. His goal on Saturday came from an XGI of 0.50. Big Ange's side unable to win, but they did look pretty encouraging, and certainly online the general perspective is that Forest are on the up after a fairly shaky couple of weeks. West Ham 1, Crystal Palace 2 at the London Stadium. Palace's form away from home has been excellent for a long time now, and it continued against lowly West Ham. Tyrick Mitchell, the goal scorer in that one. When you think about a Palace wingback firing home, you do not think of Tyrick Mitchell, you think of Munoz, but it was Mitchell's day on Saturday. Palace are now 17 games undefeated, and their 6th highest scorers in FPL are their goalkeeper and their defenders. Anton Stack was the hero for Leeds United as they won against Wolves at Molineux. He finished with a goal and an assist from an XGI of just 0.14, finished with 12 points. And I have an apology to make to Fang, who sent me a message on X when I asked if anyone was planning on signing any free agency options. He said, considering Stack. I said I would hold off. Anyone better out there? I'd like to apologize to you, Fang1799010305, as that is your handle. I was wrong. Anton Stack is a true FPL hero, and I owe you 12 points. Hopefully we can make it up to you over the course of the season. It finished Manchester United 2, Chelsea 1 at Old Trafford. Robert Sanchez's early red card having a huge impact on this one. But all credit to United, who got the win in the end. Patrick Dorgu was heavily involved in both goals, finished the game with 1 assist from an XGI of 0.39, which wasn't dissimilar to his attacking threat against Manchester City last week when he finished with an XGI of 0.30. We're going to talk about United's wing-backs a little later in the show, but what I would say about Patrick Dorgu is, unlike on the right-hand side, he seems to have the left-hand side locked down, a guaranteed starter. United have got some serious attacking threat when you look at the underlying statistics, so maybe times are a-changing for United. Time will tell. Fulham won the evening kickoff at Craven Cottage against Brentford by 3-1. They went a goal down in this one, but turned it around, and Alex Iwobi was integral to their victory. Got a goal and an assist from an XGI of 0.37. We are big fans of Iwobi on this show. He was the 10th highest scoring midfielder in the entire game last season, so he should not be overlooked. And I'm sure he will be free in a lot of your leagues right now. So certainly one to bear in mind. And we will touch on him a little bit later as well. Marcos Senesi continued his excellent start to the season with another 9 points, another clean sheet, and another DEFCON victory in the 0-0 draw between Bournemouth and Newcastle. Bournemouth have had an excellent start to the season. They look defensively resolute. They look a threat going forward. And Senesi is really picking up those points. So well done to anyone who got him on the waivers or who has picked him up on free agency at any point during the course of the season. And Sunderland drew 1-1 with Aston Villa at the Stadium of Light, despite going down to 10 men. Wilson Isidore getting his 3rd goal of the season. He started the last 2 games now. He currently seems to be Sunderland's starting striker over the likes of Mayenda and Brian Robbie. And then the weekend wrapped up at the Emirates Stadium with a draw between Arsenal and Manchester City. And Tijani Reinders got an assist, 9 points, 12 DEFCON. He's got 3 attacking returns in 5 games now. I think he started the season with that goal against Wolves. Everyone was very excited. Some may have lost faith and patience in the weeks that followed and dumped him back on the waiver pile. If you did that, that was a mistake. 3 attacking returns in 5 games, one of the best teams in the league, playing every single week. He would be a magnificent pickup if he is free in any leagues. Get it done. The big headline, though, from this weekend regarded defenses, where defensive stability seems to have disappeared entirely. Just 2 clean sheets in game week 5 compared to the average of 8.25 clean sheets in the first 4 game weeks. So we'll see if that trend continues or we revert back to a more defensively stable look in game week 6. But certainly in game week 5, defenses were struggling outside of that game between Bournemouth and Newcastle. There are lots of midweek fixtures this week. Last week it was the Champions League. This week it is the UEFA Europa League, which means Nottingham Forest are in action on Wednesday and Aston Villa are playing on Thursday night. But there's also games in the Carabao Cup, where on Tuesday, Wolves, Chelsea, Liverpool, Everton, Burnley, Fulham, and Brighton all play. And then on Wednesday, it's the Champions League clubs, Arsenal, Spurs, Manchester City, and Newcastle. So all those teams will heavily rotate, I'm sure, outside of those playing in the Europa League. But certainly one to keep an eye on when you come to thinking about your waiver picks, which all will be decided by the fixtures that we have to look forward to in game week 6. And this one starts on Saturday, the 27th of September, with a 12:30 p.m. BST game between Brentford and Manchester United. Brentford have had a bit of a rocky start to the new season under Keith Andrews, but they are actually unbeaten in their last 3 home games against Manchester United, and they won 4-3 in this fixture last season with Kevin Schade, the hero. He scored twice. In terms of potential waiver picks, Mikael Damsgaard returned to the Brentford side with a goal on Saturday. He is averaging 5 points per game right now. His XGI in the games he's played this season, 0.30, 0.27, 0.31, which is very respectable for a midfielder playing in a team like Brentford. He got 10 assists last season as well. And as the Footy Centre said on the 24th of August, Damsgaard at Brentford is class, would be getting linked with top 6 teams if he didn't have the worst hairline I've ever seen on a human. True fact, but certainly a draft option if you fancy Brentford to get a result against Manchester United. And the chances are they'll certainly get chances against United. And of course, we know that United's midfield is not exactly the strongest right now. So Damsgaard should get some space to perform. We did say we were talking about United wingbacks a little later in the show. Well, that time has come. Amad Diallo has now played 90 minutes in a row, albeit not always at wingback, played in the number 10 roles in the last 2 games. He's managed to wrap up now 1.3 XG and 2 XGI in his games this season. We can't forget that he had 16 attacking returns last year. And interestingly, Manchester United, despite struggling at the start of this season, have got the highest XG of all teams in the Premier League. They are creating more goal scoring chances than any other side in this league. And Amad Diallo has racked up 1.3 of that XG. He is a rotation risk. Cunha came back in the game at the weekend, so Amad Diallo may well revert back to right wing back. But I think that they are going to have to find a place for him in that starting 11. And they have Brentford this weekend and then have a home game against Sunderland, which are 2 games you would expect him to play in and perform in. So I think both of those are decent waiver picks for you this week. It's Chelsea against Brighton at Stamford Bridge. Cole Palmer was the hero in this one last year when he scored all 4 goals in a 4-2 win for the home side. Chelsea won 4 of the last 6 meetings between these two sides as well. So they're in a good moment against this club, mainly because they tend to buy all their best players. They have Esteval Villian back in the mix. He started against Manchester United, but was sacrificed after the red card for Robert Sanchez. He has racked up 2 XGI in less than 180 minutes of Premier League football. And with the news that Cole Palmer is nursing a groin injury, I suspect he is going to be starting on the regular, and he will be free in a lot of draft leagues, particularly having missed previous games for the club. And Alejandro Garnacho did not come on against his old club. George, Evil Saka, was preferred to him against Manchester United. But I think the theory here is that Chelsea at that point were 2-0 down. He was going to be walking into an atmosphere which, let's say, was not going to be the most friendly towards him. He has been a long-term target of Chelsea for a long time now, and I'm sure he will start sooner rather than later. So he is the sort of player that you could maybe get in here. He's going to get 20 minutes minimum. He could start, could be worth a punt. And then we've already talked about Brighton assets, 4 goal involvements in his last 3, top for points, BPS, creativity, and threat. Give it up for Yankuba Minte. Could well be free in your league. Certainly Brighton's best player on form right now, and could be a very decent pick as a 5th midfield option. Other players to consider if they are free, and it's a big if for some of these: Enzo, Neto, Danny Welbeck, and Gruder. I do think Neto is still a first-team player for Chelsea right now. Enzo has had a quiet couple of weeks, but before that had been doing very well indeed in the XGI front. Danny Welbeck and Gruder seem to be sharing minutes, really. But I think all it's going to take is Danny Welbeck to get a couple of goals, and he'll cement his place in that side. Stefanos Simas is really the only rival to him up front, unless you're looking at moving Rutter further forward. It's Crystal Palace against Liverpool at Selhurst Park. Liverpool have won 9 out of the last 10 matches between these two sides at Selhurst Park, and they drew the other, so it doesn't bode well for Palace, who do tend to play better away from home under Oliver Glasner. However, they did win at the Community Shield earlier in the season on penalties after a 2-2 draw. Liverpool were winners in this fixture last season by 1-0. Daichi Kamada is an interesting one. Pino went off injured for Palace at the weekend. Kamada's got 0.9 XGI for the season. He's got the most chances created, most dribbles, most duels won against West Ham as well. Yes, it was West Ham, not Liverpool, but you can only beat what's in front of you, and Kamada played well. So he would be a sort of left field option if you're looking for a route into that Palace midfield for this one. Defensively, though, you've got to give it up to the Eagles. Only 2 goals conceded so far this season. They have the 4th best XGC of all teams in the league. And if any of their defensive assets are free, don't just get them for this fixture, get them long term. Some people may be put off from picking them up this week because it's Liverpool, but long term, Crystal Palace defenders are excellent assets. So if there's any of the likes of Richards, Munoz, Gahey, Lacroix, or Tyreek Mitchell free, snap them up. As for Liverpool, their assets will largely be taken, but Dominic Szoboszlai played in the number 10 role against Everton He made one key pass, 10 passes into the final third. And as Wirtz tries to find a bit of German form in England, perhaps Szoboszlai will get more minutes in the number 10. And if he doesn't, he can drop deeper into the number 8 or maybe even play at right back. He certainly seems to be guaranteed minutes right now for the champions. It's Leeds against Bournemouth at Elland Road. It's only the third meeting between these two in the Premier League. And in the previous two matches, there were 12 goals scored. So, yeah, just the average of 6 goals a game between these two in the Premier League. Leeds won the last one at Elland Road by 4 goals to 3. And a few players to think about here. Noah Okafor got a goal against Wolves. He started the last 2 for Leeds United now, playing predominantly on the left-hand side. Leeds' fixtures are not that bad. After this, they have Spurs at home, Burnley away, and West Ham at home. So someone like Okafor could be a decent midfield option if you need a 5th asset in your midfield. As for Bournemouth defensively, they are very solid indeed. Alex Jimenez started and got 45 minutes against Newcastle. They have the 3rd best XGC in the league. Jimenez will surely be available in the vast majority of draft leagues. One thing to warn you about with him, though, he has already got 2 yellow cards in very minimal minutes for the Cherries. Diakite, though, did play 90 minutes against Newcastle, back from injury, and Bournemouth's next 3 fixtures after Leeds, Fulham at home, Palace away, and Forest at home. So you can certainly see at least a couple more clean sheets there. Other options, if they're free, Tavernier, Brooks, DCL, and Stack. Yes, Anton Stack. They would all be pretty solid pickups as well. It's Manchester City against Burnley at the Etihad. City have won the last 13 meetings in a row between these two, and Erling Haaland has 5 goals in his last 3 games against Burnley. He's not going to be free in the draft, unfortunately, on the waivers. But these guys might. Kusanov has started the last 3. He did limp off injured against Arsenal, so keep an eye out for news on that. But City's run now is pretty kind, and Kusanov seems to be the closest they've got to a functioning right back. Got the pace of Kyle Walker and pretty solid as well defensively. Burnley at home, Brentford away, Everton at home, and Villa away after Burnley. So 3 more very generous games, I would say, for City that you'd expect them to do well in, certainly from a defensive perspective. And Rodri returned to form against Arsenal as well, got 16 DEFCON. He started the last 3, and we must remember that in his last full season for Manchester City, he was absolutely fantastic. 8 goals and 10 assists. So he is going to be free in a lot of leagues as well. And again, would be a very astute pickup, guaranteed starter for City when fit. If you fancy a bit of Burnley action, Jadon Anthony seems to be the only choice for you now. 15 attacking returns last season in the Championship. He's currently the 2nd highest scoring midfielder in the entire game. And after Manchester City, it's Villa away, Leeds at home, and Wolves away. So 2 out of those 3 games, certainly relegation, 6 pointers. And depending on what Aston Villa do over the next few weeks, it might be 3 relegation, 6 pointers. It's Nottingham Forest taking on Sunderland at the City Ground in Ange Postecoglou's first home game in charge of the Tricky Trees. They have never met in the Premier League, these two. Their last matches came back in 2017 when Sunderland won 1-0 at the City Ground. Not sure you can take too much from that match, though. Few players to keep an eye on, though. Douglas Luiz was excellent against Burnley, got an assist. He was fantastic in his final season at Aston Villa as well, was being linked with all sorts of big clubs, ended up making the move to Juventus where it didn't work out. But in 2023 to 24, he got 14 attacking returns, and in 2022 to 2023, 13 attacking returns. He will be on set pieces for Forest as well, and he is capable of popping up with a goal too. So certainly a midfielder to keep in mind if you're in need in that area. And Forest also have 2 striker options. Chris Wood started again in their last game, but Igor Jesus and Arnold Kalimwendo both came on. Jesus got 2 goals in the Carabao Cup against Swansea and 15 minutes against Burnley. Kalimwendo got 40 minutes against Burnley, but in that time racked up 0.24 XG. If you look at what Forest fans are saying online, a lot of them seem very keen for Wood to be dropped. And then it's a mix, really, of fans saying Jesus or Kalimwendo. So it's sort of 50-50 split, really. Take a pick. I would go Kalimwendo. I know a lot of other people have gone Igor Jesus. If Kalimwendo's taken, don't be afraid to get Jesus and vice versa. I think either of them could turn out to be very decent pickups in the next few weeks. It's not going to happen overnight, but I do think sooner rather than later, one of those will replace Chris Wood as Forest's first team starter up front. As for Sunderland, they currently have the 7th best defence in terms of XGC, and Mukulele, if I'm saying that right, sounds like ukulele, but it's Mukulele, I think. Anyway, he's top for DEFCON from all Sunderland defenders. So if you want a bit of defensive action from the Black Cats, he is your man. And of course, Forest defenders could be good this week. And I never thought I'd say that after the appointment of Ange Postecoglou, but Sunderland have yet to score away from home. So if any Forest defenders are free, now might be the time to get them in for 1 week and 1 week only. It's Spurs against Wolves in North London. Wolves have lost just 2 of their last 8 games at Spurs. They've won 4 of those and drawn 2. Last season, it finished 2 apiece with Brennan Johnson and Jorgen Strand Larsen amongst the goals. I can't see Wolves getting anything out of this game, and it's hard really to recommend any of their assets. Spurs assets are going to be hard to come by on the waivers as well, but one player who started against Brighton was Destiny Udogie, and he did very well indeed. He is, of course, a rotation risk, but if he can cement that place on the left-hand side, and he is the most natural left-hand-sided defender that Spurs have, their run coming up is very tasty. Wolves at home, Leeds away, and Villa at home. So lots of clean sheet potential there for Udogie. Obviously, if a Van de Ven or a Romero or a Porro are somehow free on the waivers, they should be prioritised. But Udogie has got a fighting chance, I think, of getting a starting place sooner rather than later. Also, if they're free for 1 week and 1 week only, I think Brennan Johnson and Odeber are worth a punt. It's Wolves at home, and they look a shambles. Xavi Simons might be free in a couple of leagues. He didn't start on Saturday, so some might be prepared to do a trade as well, if you're thinking about that. And Papassar didn't start either, but he will, I'm sure, when it comes to this one. Aston Villa take on Fulham at Villa Park. Villa have a 100% home record against Fulham since they were promoted back into the Premier League. They've won the last 5 meetings, home or away. And Ollie Watkins, remember him? He's got 4 goals in 5 games against the Cottagers. He will not be free in the drafts, but he may be open to a trade from some impatient managers, let's say. Evan Gassand is edging closer to becoming a first-team regular for Villa. He got 72 minutes against Sunderland, racked up 0.36 XGI. He got 21 attacking returns in 33 league games in France last season. So he's got it. He just needs to show it in England and settle into way of life at Villa. Doesn't seem like an easy place to settle into right now with everything happening there, but they are desperate for a win. And this is a game that they would go into as heavy favourites for. If, however, you think the same thing's going to happen again and they're going to fall flat, then Alex Iwobi is the man to target. 3 attacking returns in 5 so far this season, 15 attacking returns last season. And if you want a bit of Fulham action at the back, Anderson is the man to get. He's got 4 DEFCON in a row now and 1.2 XGI, so he's an attacking threat as well. And then the final game on Sunday sees Newcastle take on Arsenal at St. James's Park. Newcastle have won 4 of the last 5 meetings between these two in the Northeast. That's in all competitions. Last season in the league, Newcastle won 1-0 thanks to a goal from Alex Isak. And Anthony Gordon has got 2 goals in his last 3 games against the Gunners as well. From a waiver point of view, I'd be looking at Newcastle defenders here. And if Dan Burn was free, he would be the one I would be targeting. Newcastle have only conceded 3 goals so far this season. They've got 4 clean sheets in 5 games. All those goals were conceded at home to Liverpool. They have the 2nd best XGC in the entire league behind Arsenal. And they're playing an Arsenal side who, despite putting 5 past Leeds United and 3 past Nottingham Forest, are not XG monsters. On the right-hand side of the screen there, you'll see against Manchester United, they created just 0.28 XG. Against Leeds, when they scored 5, they actually managed less than 1 XG, 0.96. Against Liverpool, they managed 0.33 XG. Forest just over 1, and City on Sunday 0.39. So their total XG for the season right now stands at 2.97. If you extrapolate that over 38 games, that means their XG for the season is going to be 22.6, which it probably doesn't need me to tell you is not good. So Arsenal really need to find a way to get a little more creative in front of goal and create some big opportunities. But while they don't, I think Newcastle defensive assets for this one may well be worth picking up. And I don't think many people will be thinking that way. As for Arsenal assets, we saw this week that Leo Trossard was rewarded with a start against Manchester City for his performance in Europe for Arsenal. Well, Martinelli played well in Europe, got a goal, came off the bench against City, got a goal. So by that metric, if you're looking at Arteta and trying to second guess what he'll do, Martinelli may well get the start in this one. He does rely on space behind defences, but Newcastle at home may well give Arsenal a little bit more space than they would ordinarily do if it was at the Emirates. Also, if they're free, players to consider: Harvey Barnes and Murphy continue to get minutes for the Toon, and Lewis Hall got a start against Bournemouth. I don't think he's going to start this one, but long term, I think he would be a very good asset going forward. And then on Monday night, on the 29th of September 2025, it's Everton against West Ham United. West Ham have only lost once in their last 5 visits to Everton. Thomas Souček was a scorer in a 1-1 draw last season. However, this West Ham do not look like the sort of West Ham that can go away from home and get a result. I know they did it against Nottingham Forest, but I think going to the Hill Dickinson may be a different story. So when you bear in mind that West Ham have the 8th worst XG in the entire league, and they have less than a goal's worth of XG in every game they've played, except that win over Nottingham Forest, any Everton defensive asset is a must waiver this week. I don't know how many will be free. I imagine O'Brien is your best bet, maybe Michael Keane. Jared Branthwaite is back training, so we'll see if he gets any action in this one. He would be the biggest roll of the dice, but perhaps a good asset to hold long term. Mikalenko may be free as well. The only one I haven't put on this slide is James Tarkowski, because as much as he would be first choice, absolutely, he's got DEFCON every single week. I would be astonished if he was free in your draft league. Further forward for Everton, Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall continues to have an impact going forward. 0.26 XGI he managed against Liverpool at the weekend. He's got 1.6 XGI for the season. I fancy him to do the business in this one. And Beto remains the 5th highest scoring striker of all strikers in the game for XGI. It's up to 2.09 now. Didn't score at the weekend, but maybe, just maybe, he will find a way to break down a resolute. Is that the right word? No, it's not. A terrible West Ham backline. In terms of players who are worth thinking about trading, I think, as well as he has done for Arsenal, Noni Madueke's time may be up in that first team. Bukayo Saka came on for the second half against Manchester City. The rumour is that it was an injury that forced Madueke off. But as we've seen, Newcastle away from home next, I think they'll start Saka. He is a big rotation risk. I think a lot of players and managers right now will be looking at him and going, decent 5th midfield option. So you could try to strike a trade and extract maximum value for him while you can. And Ollie Watkins, we mentioned last week, has a possible trade while he is at his lowest ebb. And I still think that would be a decent option. A lot of Villa discontent over the way the team are playing at the moment. He himself got 0 XG and 0 XA against Sunderland, which is frankly unbelievable considering you played the full game. But Villa have Fulham at home next, Burnley at home after that. Then it gets a bit tricky with games against Spurs, City and Liverpool. But certainly for the next 2, if you could find a way to get him into your team, perhaps, just perhaps, he would be a very decent pickup. In terms of our top picks for game week 6 then, if you're looking for a defender, Diakite is the man for you. Bournemouth have the 3rd best record for XGC in the league. He is a regular starter. Otherwise, this would be Jimenez we'd be recommending. And he will have been dropped in many leagues last week after he missed game week 4 with injury. In midfield, Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall is the man we would love to see in your draft teams this week. He is 2nd behind Bruno in the creativity metric on FPL, which assesses performance in terms of producing goal-scoring opportunities for others. So that is a long-winded way of saying he is 2nd for expected assists behind Bruno. And if Bruno was free on the waivers, you'd absolutely pick him up. So do get Dewsbury-Hall in if you can. And then striker-wise, there's not many to choose from this week who are likely to be free in your league, but we're going Arnold Kalimwendo. We do think he is going to get that start sooner rather than later at the expense of Chris Wood. His minutes are rising. He has a good track record in France, and he does appear to be an Ange-style centre forward. So that is your lot for this week. We have done a look back at Game Week 5. We have done a look ahead to Game Week 6. We have talked waivers. We have talked trades. We've even touched on midweek action before it's even begun. Do not forget to subscribe to this pod if you haven't already. It is the best way to ensure you never miss an episode. Like and subscribe this video. That would be great. Do let us know what you think. Do let us know if you think this is the way forward as opposed to audio versions of this pod, or should we flip it again and go back to what we know best, the old audio podcasts? You tell us. Loads of ways to get in touch with us on X and Instagram. We are at FPL Draft Zone. And on Blue Sky, we are at fpldraftzone.bsky.social. And you can get in touch with us on email as well, fpldraftzone@outlook.com. Nearly forgot what the email was, but just managed to rescue it. Anyway, that's your lot for this week. Good luck in those waivers. Good luck in free agency if you even need it. Good luck in Game Week 6. I hope you smash it. If Anton Stack is on your waivers, don't be afraid to get him in. And please, when you ask me for my view on X, I will still try to give you my honest opinion, but sometimes we all make mistakes. I'm sorry, Fang. I'm sorry. Until next time, it is bye for now.